What's up, party people? We're back. Happy motherfucking Wednesday. We're going to be chatting about some things that are not directly correlated to fitness, but also have a lot to do with your overall physical and mental health. Specifically, this conversation is going to be mainly geared towards my men, but even if you're not a male, I do think you could benefit from this conversation. We're going to be talking about ditching the vices. So I actually mentioned this on my Instagram story yesterday, but inside of that, I wrote on my story, I was like, hey, I'm going to be talking about some other things, some things that are not just broccoli, weights, and chicken. It's going to be a really good time. Hey, Joy, how you doing? I'm going to give people a second to tune in, and then I'm going to record a live podcast episode for you guys talking about ditching some vices. You know, it's maybe not the easiest conversation, but after a lot of reflection in that post that I shared the other day, prayer, meditation, and just thinking about the longer term vision of where, I want to take my company, my brand, and, all those good things. That's what we're going to be chatting about here today to share some of my experience to help you guys with that. Can you guys hear me clearly? If so, give me a thumbs up, guys. I'm so excited. We're just blessed to see another day. Isn't that right, Jose? We're blessed to see another day. TikTok, what's going on? Oscar, Connor, Leah, thank you guys for tuning in. Facebook, what's going on? If you're here with me live, drop a comment and let me know if you're excited about today's episode. I'm going to hop right in and we're going to talk about these things today, man. It's going to be a really good conversation that I think a lot of people are going to need to hear. We are blessed, Jose, and I agree, man. So without further ado, let's get started in 3, 2, and up. There's a countdown. 4, 3, 2, 1. What is going on, fam? Welcome back to another episode of the Shift Your Mind, Change Your Life podcast. It's your boy, Coach Sal, and you might feel my energy here in this episode because this is a topic that a lot of you guys have mentioned you need some support with. And really quick, before I dive into this and I share this with you guys here today, I want to give you some context into what brought me into speaking about this. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to fitness stuff, my own bodybuilding journey, and helping you guys out with, your training, nutrition, and all of that to get into peak optimal shape. I believe in my core, that is the foundation to a higher quality of life. And I don't see that going anywhere at all. All I'm simply doing here is enhancing that a little bit further. And that's, why I'm going to be talking about some more topics like sobriety, faith, mental health, leadership, specifically for my guys out there, really diving into these things because I just don't see enough fitness coaches and bodybuilders talking about that. I mean, I could be wrong. There may be guys out there that are, having these conversations, but regardless, I feel called from the man above to go ahead and share these things and, talk about my experiences to help you guys out. I'm going on almost my 12th year of fitness and, it's really served me well. And I've learned a lot about myself and I've transformed a ton, both physically and mentally, emotionally. But I just believe as human beings, specifically people that are listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume you are a high performer. And if that's you, right? If you're somebody who is a high performer, then it doesn't just stop with the gym. Why? Because the gym is only 1 hour out of the day, man. It's literally 1 hour. Okay. A good workout takes 45 minutes to an hour. So the question is, who are you once you leave the gym? When you walk out of those doors and you complete your workout, what else are you focused on? Because again, to let you into why I want to talk about these things is because I believe we're a lot more than just the physical transformation. I believe that we're a lot more than people who are just working out. Now, if you want to battle me on that, go ahead. But I want to help you guys step into a higher version of yourself that maybe you didn't think was possible, mainly because we're just not talking about it enough. And that's going to be the main overarching theme of this episode specifically, talking about ditching devices, because for a very long time, this was something that I battled really hard. And for those that are here with me live, let me know if you're resonating with this in the comments. I'm going to share a couple stories in this episode so that way you guys could have some tangible takeaways. Now, first off, let's ask the question of, well, why is ditching the vices important? What is a vice? A vice is anything that is going to be taking you off your main path, anything to help you ease the mind, anything to essentially relieve your sobriety. So that's going to be obviously your things like alcohol, drugs, pornography, anything like that that's going to take you off the path. That's a vice. Now, why are we talking about this, and why is this something that I feel strongly about? Because for a long time, when I lacked purpose and vision and goals for myself, I clung to those things. And I think it's natural as we're, younger, trying to experiment with all those things. And I think everybody goes through that time. I don't really think there's anything wrong with that per se, to experiment, to see what that's about. But I think there comes a point in time where it's not serving you, and that it's holding you back. And it's in that moment, if you choose to continue that behavior, I should say, then it becomes an issue. I have addiction that runs through my veins. My dad still battles that to this day, and I don't really talk about that frequently because it's a little bit of a touchy subject for me, but I've done a lot of my own healing work to, feel comfortable talking on these things. And I've had conversations with both him and my mom recently about that. I specifically called up my dad when I was in Mexico back in April, and we had a long phone call, probably one of the longest phone calls I ever had in my life. And, I was like, hey, I want to start talking about these things. And I think that there's a lot of us that battle a lot of these issues, specifically with addiction, specifically with vices. Alcohol has become so mainstream in today's society. And I spent probably a decade of my life from 15 to 25 every single weekend pounding beers until I couldn't see, and it's all fun and games until it becomes a real issue that you have a difficult time defeating, and it's through the practices of that, they become patterns that, we don't really see a problem with in the day-to-day, but when we step out and we look at the bigger picture, we're like, oh, this is actually really holding me back. So I want to give you some tangibles here. That way you could resolve this. Now, to kick this off, I want to talk about the story or I should say my experience with vaping, because I think that's one that's the most recent and top of mind. I am just about, I want to say 13 months with no vape. Feels pretty cool to say. Now, you might be listening to this and you're like, oh, it's vaping. It's not that big a deal. Nicotine is a very addictive chemical. If you've ever bought a vape, on the box that it literally says that in big letters. It says, warning, nicotine is an extremely addictive chemical, right? And I knew that, but I continued to buy them because it felt really good in the moment. And it's this concept of short-term gratification. If you are constantly surrendering to the short-term pleasures, whether that's alcohol, vaping, pornography, anything that's going to give you a quick dopamine hit, if you're continuously and habitually practicing that, you're setting yourself up for massive amounts of failure, because you're tricking your brain into allowing yourself to have these experiences that are not serving you long term. Because let's ask this question, right? When you do those things and you push it a little bit too far, how do you feel? Probably not good. Because I know for me personally, I was like, you know what? I'll just hit the Juul. Fine. I remember, I think it was 2018, 2019. I was in my last year of college at the University of Albany, upstate New York. And, Juuls were very popular back then. So, someone has it. Cool, man. I'll hit the Juul. No problem. Really cool. And they're like, you know what? Let me get another hit. Let me get another one. I won't buy one, though. It's not a big deal, right? I don't have one. It's fine. Couple weeks go by. You know what? Maybe I'll buy one. You buy one, then you start hitting it a little bit more. Then all of a sudden you look up, and I think it was maybe like a 6 or so months into it, my charger for the Juul had broke, and I was on YouTube trying to find a way to make a charger out of an old iPhone charger. So think about this for a second. In 2019, I was so hooked on the Juul, and I didn't have the money to buy the charger. So I went into my drawer to find an old iPhone cable, cut it with the scissor, and I was on YouTube trying to figure out how to make it into a Juul charger to charge the Juul so I could hit it. And I actually did that, and that's the truth, because I didn't have money at the time. So think about that. From just starting the whole, I'm just going to hit it, I won't buy, I'll buy it, and now all of a sudden I'm making this thing into a fucking charger. It's like, how did I get to this point? Because we're constantly pushing the envelope and saying it's not that big a deal. And we justify in our minds, just one hit. It's just one drink. It's just one meal. It's not a big deal. It's less about the meal. It's less about the drink and the hit of the vape, whatever it is. And it's more so breaking the trust within yourself and the integrity of doing something that you said you weren't going to do, and you did it anyway. That's the purpose of this episode. That's why I'm fucking stoked, because I just launched a men's only program specifically helping males with their leadership skills and talking about these things. We actually start our first batch of calls next week, which I'm fucking pumped about. And if you're one of my guys listening to this right now, I fucking appreciate you. And that call on the 3rd is going to be absolutely lit. And if you are a male in your mid to late 20s and maybe you're battling anything like this, whether that's mental health, leadership, sobriety, faith, fitness, whatever it is, there's a spot for you inside of our container. If you need some space as a male to work through this and just have some deeper conversations, if you're willing to work on it, if you're willing to drop the walls and let the ego go, and you're open to getting some feedback and some help and some guidance, support, accountability, shoot me a message. I'm always happy to help. But back to the lessons here. I'm going to give you guys 3 tangible things that you're probably going to want to write down that will make a massive difference in your life. And before I get into this, I want to be very clear. If you write these down and you don't do anything with them, that's going to be a waste of time. So please respect your time, respect mine. And if you write these down, go ahead and do something. So we're going to give you 3 tips right here to help you ditch the vices and step into the leader that you're meant to become. Number 1 is finding your mission. I'll repeat that. I want you guys to write that down. Finding your mission. Why is that important? Well, first, let's define what a mission is. And a mission is going to be a bigger purpose and a bigger vision that's going to have you feeling a sense of fulfillment in your day-to-day life. Now, I haven't always had a clear vision and mission. I would say it's something that evolves over time, and that's okay, right? But when I was first coming out of college back in 2019, I was having a really difficult time finding myself. And the one thing that has given me a lot of peace, a lot of fulfillment, a lot of just satisfaction, for lack of a better word, in my day-to-day life is having a clear mission. My goal here is to transform thousands of lives for the better and help men become true leaders so that way they could take their families to a place they didn't think was possible. So they could lead from a place of integrity and authenticity and help break these patterns that maybe our past generation weren't able to do so. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that I didn't have an incredible upbringing, because I did, and maybe you do too, right? But it's just, how can we take this a step further and make it just a little bit better? And I think that's the thing, is that I see it as our responsibility and our obligation of like, hey, there's some awareness to this topic of us getting better as a generation, and you know that. Why aren't we taking action towards that? Right? So it's not to say that we weren't raised well. Maybe you were, maybe you weren't. But it's the question of how can we take this a step further? How can we be a little bit better? What questions could we ask to improve on? What things do we need to work on? And that's the purpose of this conversation. So when it comes to ditching the vices, I think when I look back at the times that I was really dependent on alcohol, vaping, drugs, pornography, I didn't have a mission. I didn't have a vision. I didn't really have clear goals that I was working towards. And that's why I constantly was clinging to those things. Dude, I spent a lot of time video games, porn, nicotine, alcohol, all the things, because I just didn't know what to do with my time, because I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know what I was trying to accomplish. Now, again, I'm saying I think throughout our experience, there's going to be that point in time for you, and that's okay. We all have to go through our things. But what this conversation could do is help you maybe skip a step and just hear one thing that could help you take a different action, and that's going to be the intention here. So when it comes to finding your mission, you have to ask yourself some questions here of, what makes me feel good? What makes me feel good? If I didn't have to pay my bills, what would I do for fun? Can I monetize that? For me, I always said I wanted to help other people, which is why I'm on here and I could fucking sit up on this microphone and talk for hours, because I genuinely, in my soul, get fulfillment out of helping other people. Fortunately enough, I found a lot of courage and experience and help to be able to grow my business to actually do this and support me financially full time so I can continue to grow it. But that's the thing. I was doing a lot of free shit when I first started. I had no fucking idea what I was doing when I first started 5 years ago. So that's the thing. You have to take that first step in faith. Finding your mission is not going to happen by accident. If you're, rubbing crystals on your nipples and hoping and praying every single day that the universe is going to one day knock on your door, give it to you, you're sadly mistaken. That's not really how it works. How it works is taking the initiative to ask yourself some questions and starting to put yourself in the arena of growth to help yourself find those conclusions. Second point is executing on that daily vision. We're talking about how to ditch the vices so you can become a better man, a better leader for your family, for your legacy. We're talking about legacy here, guys. This shit is not going to happen by mistake. I promise you that. So once you find your mission or vision, and also just last point on that, it's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight, and it will evolve over time. And that's totally cool. Be okay with that. Surrender to that process. Okay. And then executing on that vision every single day is what gives you the strength and the purpose to see out the bad days. Because let's just be real, life is fucking hard, right? Life is hard, and there's going to be a lot of things that test you on a daily basis. And if you're somebody who is constantly sitting in the backseat and pointing the finger and allowing yourself to be a victim of what's going on around you, man, you're going to be really having a difficult time with a lot of things. And I don't want that for you. And it can honestly be a very easy fix. So if you identify what that vision and mission is, it could be something as just having a weight loss goal of, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds. If you have that goal in mind and you start waking up every single day to work towards that, you will feel much better. I can almost promise you that you will feel less of a pull towards drinking, towards those things. Now, it's not going to go away overnight. It's not a light switch where you're just going to flip it and be like, yeah, I'm solved, I'm healed. Like, listen, I'm going on my 5th year of business, almost my 13 years of training, and I learn shit every single day. I think a subtopic off of this is to remain a student and allow yourself to approach every single day as you don't really know everything. I think that's the place to be, humbly, and you need to accept that role, but also have the confidence to keep pushing forward and work as hard as you can. I think if you merge those two, you'll be in a really good spot. Then the last point, number 3, I want you guys to write this down: recreating your identity. Now, I think number 3 is a byproduct of the first two, right? So when it comes to ditching your vices and really stepping into a role of sobriety and leadership as a male, once you find that mission, once you find that vision and you're executing on it on a daily basis, eventually you will create your identity. And then, those vices will become less strong over time. They'll have less of a grip on you. Because the more that you say no to it, the quieter the urges become. And that's the truth. That is the truth. And I believe that in my soul. Why? Because I've experienced it for myself. When I was 50 pounds overweight in 2019, it was because I couldn't say no to the short-term pleasures of having fast food. But eventually, through setting a goal of I want to get in shape and I'm not going to eat these foods, eventually your palate will literally change. And then the same foods that tasted really good to you don't really taste so good to you anymore. Like, honestly, I don't eat fast food anymore, not because it doesn't taste good. I think just the quality of food sucks. And when you get so accustomed to having quality foods, it's like you just don't even want that shit because it's like, fucking, what kind of meat is that? It's like once you see it, you can't unsee it type shit, But to hammer this home and really make sure you guys take something from this episode, this is the secret sauce from what I know. Find your mission, execute every single day, and that will allow you to recreate your identity. And over time, once you do and you reshape your character, it's going to be a lot easier to say no. It's going to be a lot easier to stay in the mindset of being this version of you, the new you, the bigger you, the called you, the one that is destined to create these things in your life. So to recap, those are your main 3 topics or things that you could focus on today that'll help you ditch those vices. And the last thing I want to say on that is allow it to be a process. Give yourself I was going to say freedom, but I think empathy is a better word. Allow yourself to be a human inside of that. Right? We're not trying to uproot years of behaviors and expect you to magically wave this wand of I'm going to do this thing and within a month I'm going to be sober and jacked. Doesn't really work that way. You're aware of that, but like really drop into, hey, this is going to take a good amount of time, but I'm okay with that because I have faith that if I do this every single day, I will get closer. And that is my batch of wisdom for you today. And I really want to encourage you as we wrap this up to take action on this. A very simple step here is to, once you click out of this episode, go into your notes and start to jot down some of these questions. What is my mission? What is my vision? How am I going to get closer to that? What do I need to do today that's going to help me get closer to that? How can I stay consistent here? What resources do I need to be successful there? Is there somebody that I could reach out to for help? And that's it. Keep it simple. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to check this out. If you got some value, go ahead and shoot me a message. Much love. Have the best day of your entire lives, and we'll chat soon. Let's go. Boom. That is it. That is all. I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great day. And